The sky cracked open with a shimmer of impossible geometry, as if reality itself was being torn apart and reconstructed. The Xerexian diplomatic vessel materialized above the United Nations Extraterrestrial Reception Center in Geneva, its hull a fractal nightmare of crystalline structures that defied human understanding of physics. Captain Michael Rodriguez stood motionless, his dark eyes tracking every millisecond of the ship's descent. Decades of preparation had led to this moment, a carefully choreographed dance of diplomacy and potential destruction. Around him, a team of specialists represented the full spectrum of human capability. Dr. Elena Reyes, a quantum linguist whose neural implants could process alien communication patterns in real time. Commander James Wheeler, a former special operations strategist with a reputation for unconventional thinking. Dr. Marcus Chen, a xenobiological expert who had spent his entire career studying potential alien physiologies. The ship's landing was neither gentle nor aggressive, simply precise. Its exterior shifted colors, a biological-technological hybrid that seemed to breathe and think simultaneously. Atmospheric sensors around the landing site went wild, recording energy signatures that would take years to fully analyze. Ambassador Krelnax emerged, and the world held its breath. The alien was nothing like the early speculative fiction had imagined. No little green men, no humanoid figures with oversized heads. Krelnax was a living contradiction, part organic, part technological, a being that blurred the lines between life and machine. Segmented limbs moved with calculated precision, each joint a complex mechanism of muscle, exoskeleton, and what appeared to be integrated circuitry. His translator, a living device that seemed to grow from his central mass, began to pulse with translation frequencies. Around the diplomatic team, universal translators adjusted, creating a complex web of linguistic interpretation. Humans of Earth, the translation emerged, clinical and emotionless. The Galactic Collective has determined your species' classification. Michael Rodriguez didn't move, didn't blink. Years of diplomatic training and military conditioning had prepared him for this exact moment. Every muscle, every neural pathway was calibrated for this encounter. Dr. Reyes stepped forward, her neural implants flickering with computational intensity. "We are prepared to hear your classification," she responded, her voice calm, a deliberate contrast to the tension crackling through the air. What Krelnax and the Galactic Collective didn't understand was the depth of human preparation. This wasn't just a diplomatic meeting. It was the culmination of decades of secret research, international cooperation, and a species-wide understanding that first contact would be humanity's most critical moment. Beneath the Geneva Reception Center, a network of quantum communication relays stood ready. Orbital defense platforms, disguised as communication satellites, had been repositioned months ago. Every major world government had secret protocols, each more extreme than the last. The global military-scientific complex had been working toward this moment since the first credible evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence emerged. Not with fear, but with a cold, calculated preparation that would have shocked the alien observers. Commander Wheeler's hand rested casually near a communication device. To the untrained eye, it looked like a simple tablet. In reality, it was a direct link to a global network of response protocols that could be activated with a single touch. Krelnax continued, unaware of the intricate preparations surrounding him. Your technological development indicates a potential classification as a managed species within our collective galactic framework. A managed species. The words hung in the air, laden with implications of subjugation, control, and the systematic dismantling of human sovereignty. Michael Rodriguez allowed himself the briefest of smiles, a micro-expression that would have been invisible to anyone not trained to look for it. The aliens thought they were here to deliver a verdict. They didn't realize they were walking into a trap millennia in the making. First contact had begun. The communication arrived simultaneously across every global network, government channel, and diplomatic frequency. It was a masterpiece of bureaucratic violence. each word carefully chosen to strip humanity of its autonomy, its dignity, its very right to self-determination. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, the Central Defensive Coordination Center hummed with a quiet intensity that belied the impending storm. Colonel Emily Thompson stood before a massive holographic display that mapped global resources, military capabilities, and scientific developments with near-omniscient precision. Her team was unlike any military unit in human history. Drawn from every corner of the globe, they represented a fusion of disciplines that defied traditional military thinking. Lieutenant Jason Kim, a Korean-American quantum computing specialist, worked alongside Dr. Aisha Okoye, a Nigerian neural network engineer. To their left, Major Robert Santiago analyzed potential extraterrestrial threat vectors, his background in comparative xenosociology providing unique insights. "They've made their move," Colonel Thompson murmured, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Decades of preparation had led to this moment. Contingency plans so elaborate that most governments had believed them to be nothing more than elaborate thought experiments. The Zyrexian Declaration was brutally simple. Humanity would be classified as a managed species, a euphemism that meant complete subjugation. Resource control would be stripped away. Scientific development would be controlled. Every aspect of human civilization would be monitored, regulated, and ultimately constrained. Lieutenant Kim's neural interface flickered to life, quantum algorithms already parsing the deeper implications of the alien communication. "They've significantly underestimated our preparedness," he said, a hint of a smile crossing his typically stoic features. Colonel Thompson nodded. The global response had been rehearsed countless times, refined through thousands of high-level simulations that pushed the boundaries of predictive modeling. What the aliens saw as a simple bureaucratic process was about to become their worst nightmare. "Initiate global protocol," she commanded, her voice calm and precise. Around the world, systems that had appeared to be simple communication networks, scientific research platforms, and industrial infrastructure began to transform. Manufacturing centers that had seemed dedicated to consumer goods suddenly revealed themselves as potential military production facilities. Research laboratories switched from theoretical exploration to practical weaponization with alarming speed. In the United States, automated factories retooled themselves in minutes. Semiconductor plants that had been producing computer chips now reconfigured to create advanced computational systems for military applications. Supply chains that had seemed focused on global commerce revealed themselves as intricate logistical networks capable of supporting a global military response. Similar transformations occurred globally. Chinese quantum computing centers redirected their processing power toward strategic modeling. European biotechnology facilities began developing advanced countermeasures against potential alien biological threats. Russian space research installations pivoted toward developing advanced propulsion and defensive technologies. "Communications blackout in 3, Lieutenant Kim announced, his fingers moving with surgical precision across multiple holographic interfaces. 2, 1. The global communication network shifted. What the aliens would receive would be carefully controlled information, a narrative crafted to make humanity appear exactly as they expected. Weak, divided, manageable. The reality was something else entirely. Colonel Thompson watched as the first phase of their response began to unfold. This wasn't just about defending against the Zyrexian classification. This was about sending a message that would echo through the galaxy. "Prepare the advanced response teams," she said softly to Major Santiago. "It's time to show them what humanity is truly capable of." Outside the Mountain Command Center, the world was changing, and the aliens had no idea what was coming. The global transformation happened with a precision that would have been impossible just a decade earlier. Universities that had once competed now worked in perfect synchronization, their research networks merging into a unified knowledge platform that processed information at speeds beyond previous comprehension. Dr. Robert Williams stood in the primary research hub of the Advanced Defense Technology Center, watching as multiple holographic displays tracked the global preparation. His team represented the pinnacle of human innovative thinking. Engineers, mathematicians, psychologists, and computational experts working in a symbiotic network that defied traditional disciplinary boundaries. "We're not just preparing a defense," Williams explained to the assembled team. "We're developing an entirely new approach to conflict resolution." The core of their strategy was adaptive intelligence, a breakthrough that went far beyond traditional artificial intelligence. Where previous AI systems were limited by preset parameters, this new approach created learning systems that could evolve in real time, anticipating and countering threats before they fully materialized. In orbital research stations, scientists worked on technologies that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Dr. Elena Rodriguez supervised a team developing quantum entanglement communication systems that could bypass traditional communication limitations. Next to her, Dr. Marcus Chen worked on biological adaptation technologies that could protect human soldiers in extreme environmental conditions. Manufacturing centers around the world underwent a radical transformation. Automotive plants repurposed themselves for military vehicle production in hours. Semiconductor factories began producing specialized computational systems designed for warfare. What appeared to be civilian infrastructure revealed itself as a potential military ecosystem. The Chinese quantum computing network linked with European research centers, creating a global computational platform that could process complex strategic models faster than any known technological system. Russian space research facilities redirected their exploration technologies toward defensive and offensive capabilities. "We're creating more than a defense system," Dr. Williams explained during a secure briefing. "We're developing an adaptive organism, a collective intelligence that can respond to threats in ways no single entity could predict." The Psychological Warfare Division worked alongside the technological teams. They weren't just preparing physical defenses, but developing comprehensive strategies that could potentially destabilize alien communication and decision-making processes. Major Rebecca Chen, head of the Psychological Warfare Research Team, presented her findings. "Our goal is to create uncertainty," she explained. "We're developing communication strategies that will make our responses fundamentally unpredictable." This wasn't just military preparation. It was a species-wide mobilization that touched every aspect of human civilization. Educational systems began incorporating advanced strategic thinking into their curricula. Medical research centers developed enhanced human performance technologies. Economic systems restructured to support the potential conflict. The space research divisions made perhaps the most radical developments. New propulsion technologies emerged that could potentially revolutionize space travel. Advanced material sciences created protective systems that could withstand environments previously considered impossible to survive. Dr. Williams watched the global preparation with a sense of calculated optimism. Humanity had always been at its best when facing seemingly insurmountable challenges. Every major leap in human development had come from moments of extreme pressure, and this was the ultimate pressure test. "We're not just preparing for a potential conflict," he told his closest colleagues during a private moment. "We're redefining what it means to be a spacefaring civilization." The global preparation was a symphony of human capability. Every research center, every manufacturing plant, every educational institution playing its part in a complex, adaptive response. The aliens had classified humanity as a managed species. They were about to learn the true meaning of human resilience. As the preparation continued, one thing became increasingly clear. Humanity was not going to be managed. They were going to define the terms of their own existence. And the galaxy had no idea what was coming. Space fractured like broken glass as the Xerexian fleet emerged from their faster-than-light translation. Thousands of ships, each a marvel of technological engineering that had subjugated hundreds of civilizations, positioned themselves around Earth's orbital space. Their commanders believed this would be another routine pacification operation. They were catastrophically wrong. Captain Michael Rodriguez watched from the Advanced Command Center, his neural interface processing combat data faster than any biological system could comprehend. The first wave of Xerexian ships moved with a precision that had crushed countless civilizations before humanity. Crystalline hulls shifted with impossible geometries, weapon systems that could vaporize entire planetary defenses charging to full power. "Initiate distributed defense protocol," Rodriguez commanded, his voice calm despite the magnitude of the incoming assault. What the aliens didn't understand was that humanity's defense was nothing like traditional military structures. Each human defensive unit was a living, breathing, adaptive system. Automated defense platforms that appeared to be simple communication satellites transformed in milliseconds. Kinetic interceptors launched from hidden orbital facilities, their trajectories calculated by quantum computational networks that could predict alien movements before the enemy even conceived of them. The first volley of Xerexian energy weapons met something entirely unexpected. Instead of solid defensive screens, they encountered a distributed network of adaptive electromagnetic fields. Each defensive platform communicated and adjusted in microseconds, creating a dynamic shield that absorbed, redirected, and ultimately neutralized the incoming attack. Dr. Elena Reyes monitored the engagement from the ground control center. Her neural implants processed combat data in real time, feeding strategic insights directly to the distributed combat intelligence. "They're using a hierarchical attack pattern," she transmitted to the combat teams. "Predictable. Exploitable. Swarms of autonomous drones, each powered by an adaptive learning system that had studied centuries of human and alien conflict, launched from hidden facilities. These were not simple remote-controlled vehicles. Each drone was a potential strategic node, capable of independent decision-making and instantaneous tactical adaptation. The Xerexian fleet found itself fighting an enemy that didn't think or fight like any civilization they had encountered. Where other species relied on centralized command structures, human defense was a distributed, living network. Each defensive unit could think, adapt, and respond faster than any centralized system. "Target their quantum communication nodes," Rodriguez instructed. The command went out across the distributed network, interpreted and implemented simultaneously by thousands of independent yet interconnected systems. Kinetic weapons designed through decades of theoretical and practical research punched through alien shield technologies. Each projectile was more than a simple piece of metal. It was a complex computational system that could adjust its trajectory, analyze shield frequencies, and optimize its own destructive potential in milliseconds. The space around Earth became a complex ballet of destruction. Xerexian ships that had seemed invulnerable began to fall, not through overwhelming force, but through a strategy so adaptive and complex that it defied traditional understanding of warfare. Lieutenant Jason Kim managed the Computational Warfare Division. His team had developed communication disruption technologies that went beyond simple electronic warfare. They were introducing complex informational viruses into the alien communication networks, mathematical constructs that could destabilize their entire command structure. "We're not just fighting," Kim transmitted to the combat teams. "We're systematically dismantling their entire operational infrastructure." Aboard the Xerexian flagship, command officers watched in growing horror. Their tactical models, developed over millennia of galactic conquest, were failing. Humanity was fighting a war that didn't follow any known strategic doctrine. By the engagement's first hour, nearly 30% of the Xerexian first wave had been neutralized. Not destroyed, neutralized, disabled, captured, turned into additional computational nodes for the human defensive network. Captain Rodriguez allowed himself the briefest moment of satisfaction. This was more than a battle. This was a demonstration, a clear message to the galaxy about what humanity truly represented. The first engagement was drawing to a close, and humanity was just getting started. The nature of human conflict defied every known galactic paradigm of warfare, where other civilizations saw battle as a linear progression of force and counterforce. Humanity transformed conflict into a multidimensional chess match that attacked every possible vulnerability simultaneously. Dr. Sarah Anderson led the Psychological Warfare Division from a secure facility deep beneath the Andes Mountains. Her team represented a radical approach to conflict, understanding that war was fought not just with weapons, but with information, perception, and psychological manipulation. "We're not just fighting their military," she explained during a classified briefing. "We're dismantling their entire conceptual understanding of conflict." The human approach targeted every possible dimension of the Xeraxian infrastructure. Computational networks developed by Dr. Marcus Chen introduced complex mathematical constructs into alien communication systems, information viruses that didn't just disrupt communication but fundamentally challenged the logical frameworks of the alien computational networks. Biological warfare teams developed countermeasures that went far beyond traditional defensive strategies. Led by Dr. Elena Rodriguez, they created adaptive molecular systems that could neutralize potential alien biological threats, while simultaneously gathering critical intelligence about Xeraxian physiological vulnerabilities. Special operations teams moved with a fluidity that seemed to defy conventional understanding of military engagement. Each unit was a self-contained ecosystem of strategic thinking, capable of making complex decisions faster than centralized command structures could process information. Major Rebecca Chen's infiltration unit demonstrated this approach most dramatically. Deployed to a critical Xeraxian communication hub, they didn't just gather intelligence, they systematically dismantled the entire operational infrastructure from within. "Our goal is not destruction," Major Chen transmitted to her team. "Our goal is complete systemic destabilization." The Psychological Warfare Division worked on multiple levels simultaneously. They introduced complex communication patterns that exploited fundamental weaknesses in Xeraxian cognitive processing. Broadcast signals carried mathematical sequences that could induce computational confusion, while targeted communication disrupted their strategic decision-making processes. Lieutenant Jason Kim's computational warfare team developed communication technologies that went beyond simple electronic warfare. They created adaptive linguistic algorithms that could introduce fundamental uncertainties into alien communication networks. Each transmission was a carefully crafted piece of informational warfare, designed to create maximum strategic confusion. Space-based operations took on a similarly unconventional approach. Human military units didn't just defend, they transformed the entire operational environment. Orbital platforms became adaptive defensive and offensive systems, capable of changing their operational parameters in milliseconds. Dr. Williams' adaptive intelligence teams had created something unprecedented. Each defensive system was more than a weapon. It was a living, learning entity that could analyze, adapt, and respond faster than any centralized command could comprehend. The Xeraxian military found itself fighting an enemy that didn't conform to any known strategic doctrine. Human units moved with a complexity that seemed almost organic, each engagement a fluid dance of technological and strategic adaptation. Biological research teams developed advanced protective technologies that went beyond traditional defensive systems. Nanotechnology integrated with human physiological systems created soldiers who could survive in environments previously considered impossible. Each human operative became a complex, adaptive system capable of processing and responding to threats at speeds that defied traditional understanding. "We're rewriting the fundamental understanding of conflict," Dr. Anderson explained during a secure transmission. "Every engagement is an opportunity to learn, to adapt, to evolve." The psychological impact was perhaps the most devastating weapon. The Xeraxian command structure, built on millennia of predictable military engagement, found itself facing an enemy that didn't just fight differently. They conceived of conflict in fundamentally different ways. Major Chen's infiltration team demonstrated this approach most dramatically during a critical mission. What appeared to be a simple reconnaissance operation transformed into a complete systemic deconstruction of a critical Xeraxian communication hub. Captain Michael Rodriguez watched the comprehensive strategy unfold. This wasn't just a military engagement. This was a fundamental reimagining of what conflict could mean. The Xeraxian military was about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon was not its technology. It was its capacity to think beyond established paradigms, to see opportunity where others saw only limitation. And they were just getting started. The emergency session of the Galactic Council descended into chaos faster than anyone could have anticipated. Holographic displays flickered with real-time battle data that defied every known model of interstellar conflict. Representatives from hundreds of advanced civilizations watched in growing horror as humanity systematically dismantled what had been considered the most powerful military force in known space. Grand Counselor Vexera's tentacles writhed in agitation, a biological tell that betrayed the depth of his growing panic. "This is impossible," he stammered, his translation systems struggling to capture the pure terror in his alien voice. The data streams showed something that violated every fundamental understanding of technological development and military engagement. The Cloraxian representative, a crystalline being whose species had dominated galactic politics for millennia, projected a holographic analysis of human strategic movements. Their computational systems are operating at levels that should be mathematically impossible, the representative noted, its resonant voice carrying a tremor of genuine fear. Ambassador Cathax from the Hydran Confederacy leaned forward, multiple sensory organs processing the incoming data. "They're not just fighting," he observed. "They're fundamentally rewriting the rules of engagement." What made the human response truly terrifying was its unpredictability. Traditional galactic conflicts followed established protocols, predictable patterns of attack, defense, and negotiation. Humanity had thrown out those protocols entirely. Each engagement was a complete reimagining of warfare, with strategies that emerged and evolved faster than any computational system could predict. The communication networks between galactic species began to light up with unprecedented levels of activity. What had begun as a simple classification of a newly discovered species was rapidly transforming into an existential threat to the established galactic order. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, watching from Earth's command center, allowed herself the briefest moment of satisfaction. The psychological warfare teams had done more than just disrupt alien communication. They had introduced fundamental uncertainties into the galactic power structure. "They're breaking," Lieutenant Jason Kim reported, analyzing the communication disruption patterns. "The entire communication infrastructure of the Xeraxian fleet is becoming increasingly unstable." The Quantum Intelligence Division had developed communication strategies that went far beyond traditional electronic warfare. They were introducing mathematical constructs that fundamentally challenged the logical frameworks of alien computational networks. Each transmission was a carefully crafted piece of informational warfare, designed to create maximum strategic confusion. Grand Counselor Vexera called for an immediate strategic assessment. The holographic displays showed human defensive systems that seemed to learn and adapt in real time. Weapon systems that could reconfigure themselves mid-engagement. Communication networks that operated more like living organisms than traditional technological infrastructure. "We've classified them wrong," the Cloraxian representative stated, its crystalline form pulsing with a mix of fear and grudging respect. "They're not a species to be managed. They're a fundamental threat to our entire understanding of technological development." The data was irrefutable. In less than 72 hours, humanity had destroyed nearly 60% of the Xeraxian First Wave. But it wasn't just the physical destruction that terrified the Galactic Council. It was the way humanity had done it. Adaptive, innovative, completely unpredictable. Military strategists from dozens of advanced civilizations watched in horror as human units transformed every engagement into a complex, multidimensional chess match. Where other species saw conflict as a linear progression of force, humanity saw an opportunity for continuous adaptation and innovation. "We need to recategorize them," Ambassador Cathax suggested, his multiple sensory organs tracking the continuously shifting battle data. "They are not a managed species. They are a potential existential threat." The communication networks between galactic species began to shift. What had begun as a simple bureaucratic classification was becoming a fundamental reassessment of humanity's place in the galactic ecosystem. Captain Michael Rodriguez watched the galactic panic unfold with a calm that seemed almost supernatural. This was more than a military engagement. This was a fundamental challenge to the established galactic order. The Galactic Council was about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon was not its technology. It was its capacity to reimagine what was possible. And they were just getting started. The final strategic assault began not with a massive fleet engagement, but with a series of synchronized strikes that would redefine the very concept of interstellar conflict. Colonel Emily Thompson stood in the Advanced Command Center, her neural interface processing multiple layers of tactical information simultaneously. Initiate full-spectrum engagement protocol, she commanded, her voice calm despite the magnitude of the operation about to unfold. What followed was nothing short of a comprehensive systemic deconstruction of the Xeraxian military infrastructure. Infiltration teams moved with a precision that seemed to defy the laws of probability. Each operative was more than a soldier. They were a living, adaptive computational node, capable of processing and responding to threats faster than any centralized command could comprehend. Dr. Marcus Chen's biological adaptation technologies came into full effect. Specialized operatives could survive in environments that would have killed any other known species. Nanotechnology integrated with human physiological systems created soldiers who were living weapons, each one a complex, adaptive system capable of processing information and responding to threats at speeds that defied traditional understanding. Major Rebecca Chen led the primary infiltration unit. Their target was the central communication hub of the Xeraxian fleet, a massive orbital installation that had been considered impenetrable. Traditional military doctrine would have called for a direct assault. The human approach was far more sophisticated. "We're not here to destroy," Major Chen transmitted to her team. "We're here to completely dismantle their operational capability." The infiltration began with a series of computational attacks that went far beyond traditional electronic warfare. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's team had developed communication viruses that were more like living mathematical constructs. Each transmission carried complex informational patterns designed to introduce fundamental uncertainties into the alien computational networks. Lieutenant Jason Kim managed the Computational Warfare Division. His team transformed the very concept of electronic combat. They didn't just disrupt communication. They introduced mathematical sequences that could potentially rewrite the fundamental operating systems of the alien infrastructure. The Xeraxian communication hub found itself facing an enemy that didn't think or operate like any civilization they had encountered. Human infiltration teams moved through their systems like ghosts, each operative a potential strategic node, capable of independent decision-making and instantaneous tactical adaptation. Biological countermeasures developed in secret laboratories neutralized entire command structures. The human operatives didn't just gather intelligence. They systematically dismantled the entire operational infrastructure from within. Captain Michael Rodriguez watched the comprehensive strategy unfold from the primary command center. This was more than a military operation. This was a fundamental reimagining of what conflict could mean. The first signs of total systemic failure began to emerge. Xeraxian defensive systems started to turn against themselves. Communication networks became increasingly unstable. Strategic decision-making processes ground to a complete halt. "We've introduced a fundamental uncertainty into their entire operational framework," Dr. Rodriguez explained during a secure transmission. "They can no longer trust their own systems." Major Chen's infiltration team demonstrated the ultimate effectiveness of the human approach during a critical moment. What appeared to be a simple reconnaissance operation transformed into a complete systemic deconstruction of the Xeraxian Central Command infrastructure. The biological and computational warfare teams had developed something unprecedented. Each infiltration unit was more than a group of soldiers. They were a living, learning entity that could analyze, adapt, and respond faster than any centralized command could comprehend. As the operation reached its culmination, the Xeraxian military found itself fighting an enemy that didn't conform to any known strategic doctrine. Human units moved with a complexity that seemed almost organic, each engagement a fluid dance of technological and strategic adaptation. Target neutralization complete, Major Chen transmitted. The words were simple, but their implications were profound. The Xyrexian military infrastructure had been completely dismantled, not through overwhelming force, but through a strategy so adaptive and complex that it defied traditional understanding of warfare. Captain Rodriguez allowed himself the briefest moment of satisfaction. This was more than a battle. This was a clear message to the galaxy about what humanity truly represented. The turning point had been reached, and humanity was just beginning to show its true potential. The silence that followed was more powerful than any weapon humanity had deployed. The Galactic Council convened in an emergency session that would reshape the understanding of interstellar civilization. Representatives from hundreds of advanced species sat in stunned contemplation, the holographic displays still flickering with the remnants of humanity's comprehensive victory. Captain Michael Rodriguez stood before the council, his presence a testament to the complexity of human capability. He was not just a military leader, but a diplomat, a strategist, and a representative of a species that had just fundamentally challenged every existing paradigm of galactic interaction. "We did not seek this conflict," Rodriguez began, his voice calm and measured. Each word was carefully chosen, translated across multiple linguistic and computational systems. "But we will ensure our right to self-determination." The demands were simple yet revolutionary. Humanity sought full recognition as an independent civilization. No management, no oversight, complete sovereignty. Grand Counselor Vexera, his multiple appendages still trembling from the recent conflict, struggled to comprehend the human approach. The Xyrexian military, a force that had subjugated hundreds of civilizations, had been systematically dismantled not through overwhelming force, but through a strategy of such complexity that it defied traditional understanding. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, leading the diplomatic contingent, presented a comprehensive analysis that was equal parts warning and invitation. "Our conflict demonstrates a fundamental truth," she explained. "Humanity is not a threat to be contained, but a potential partner to be understood." The technological revelations were staggering. Human adaptive intelligence systems had developed computational approaches that went beyond anything in known galactic science. Each engagement had been a learning opportunity, each conflict a chance to evolve and innovate. Lieutenant Jason Kim provided technical demonstrations that left the council representatives in a state of shocked admiration. Computational systems that could learn and adapt in milliseconds. Communication technologies that could introduce mathematical constructs capable of fundamentally challenging existing technological paradigms. Major Rebecca Chen outlined the biological and strategic innovations, nanotechnology that could transform human physiology, adaptive warfare strategies that saw conflict as a multidimensional problem-solving exercise. Each presentation was a carefully crafted message. Humanity was not just another species to be categorized and controlled. The economic implications were equally profound. Human adaptive technologies could revolutionize everything from space exploration to computational infrastructure. What had begun as a potential subjugation had transformed into a potential partnership that could reshape galactic civilization. "We are offering a choice," Captain Rodriguez stated clearly. "Recognize our sovereignty, or face the consequences of continued aggression." The threat was implicit, delivered with a calm that was more terrifying than any direct declaration of war. Humanity had demonstrated its capacity not just to defend itself, but to completely dismantle an established galactic power structure. Representatives from other species began to see an opportunity. The Xyrexian delegation, traditionally the most conservative in the council, saw potential technological partnerships. The Hydrum Confederacy recognized a potential ally against other established powers. Dr. Marcus Chen presented a comprehensive proposal for scientific and technological exchange, not as a subordinate species, but as an equal partner. Advanced research collaborations that could benefit the entire galactic community. The final resolution came after hours of intense negotiation. Humanity would be recognized as a fully sovereign civilization. No restrictions, no management protocols, complete independence. We are not seeking conquest, Captain Rodriguez emphasized during the final session. We are seeking the right to determine our own path. The Galactic Council had learned a fundamental lesson. Humanity was not a species to be controlled or managed. They were a force of nature, unpredictable, innovative, and fundamentally transformative. As the negotiations concluded, Dr. Elena Rodriguez shared a quiet moment with Captain Rodriguez. "We've changed everything," she said softly. He nodded. This was more than a military victory. This was a fundamental reimagining of humanity's place in the universe. The galaxy would never be the same. Epilogue. In the generations that followed, this moment would be studied as the turning point, when humanity proved that true strength was not about technological superiority, but about the capacity to think, adapt, and evolve beyond established limitations.